Manx Radio's Countryside is brought to you by NFU Mutual.
Hello and welcome to Countryside here on Manx Radio. I'm Simon Clark.
And I'm Kirree. Last week I went along to Billown Quarry to catch up with the University College students doing their horticultural course.
And I was at the Point of Ayre meeting up with the Managing Director of Manx Birdlife, Neil Morris, to have a look how the nature reserve is going along and find out more about what the birds are up to in the transition from the winter to the spring. But firstly, Kirree, before we get into stuff, did a little bit on the radio last week, and on social media it was well documented with some of the farmers posting pictures and details of their sheep that have been attacked by dogs.
Yes, it's very unfortunate and it still occurs year after year. We cannot reiterate how important it is to keep the dogs on leads in the countryside, especially at this time of year. The stock is now out in the fields. There's ewes, lamb and there's cows calving, and it is a dangerous place for people to walk with dogs off the lead. They can chase the ewes, cause abortions, and it is really unpleasant for all involved.
Yeah, and the strange thing is people go, oh, you know, my dog wouldn't do it, but they do.
They really do.
That's the reality of it.
Absolutely.
And the sad thing is, you may not know. The dog may have gone off rushing out somewhere, and you think, shout and when it comes back. But obviously, with some of the stories, you know, they would have telltale signs on, wouldn't they, on the dog?
It is very unfortunate. Even if you're walking in plantations or on beaches, the perimeters, you don't know if there's sheep over those boundaries having their lambs or heavily pregnant, and you just don't know where in the countryside at the moment the farmers are keeping stock. So we just say, please keep the dogs on the lead at this time of year. We want everybody to enjoy the countryside. You know, there's no two ways about it. We want the people in the countryside, and just to be a little bit more mindful at the moment.
Yes. Well, talking about education, you were with a group of mixture, I suppose, at the Billown Quarry.
That's right. I popped along last week to Billown Quarry, where Colas do their excavation for stone for the Isle of Man roads and for private people. And I caught up with the Isle of Man College students doing their horticultural course. They were there along with the Manx Wildlife Trust and staff from the Colas itself, planting trees around the Bund. I caught up with Principal Jasmine Kelly. Now, the weather is a bit to be desired for tree planting, but what a fantastic turnout today.
Yes, it's been amazing. I mean, so great to see the students and the staff, Manx Wildlife Trust and Billown Quarry team here all working together on a fantastic project.
Now, this project is through UCM, a course there.
Yeah, and this is our level 1 horticulture and environmental studies programme, and it feeds onto our level 2 horticulture and our construction programmes. But many of the students are already working in the sector, having started the course and found some real inspiration from the teachers and the work that they're doing.
And that is it, isn't it? It's getting hands-on experience before going into the workplace or working alongside it, because lots of people like to earn as they go now.
Definitely, and I think earning and learning at the same time is a real key thing and a real motivator for our students. And as you can see today, our students are a wide range of ages. They're not all school leavers, they're adults returning or retraining or rethinking about what they're doing with their careers as well.
And I think that is really important. A lot of well-being and mental health in the workplace now. This is another option to change up what they're doing.
Definitely, and you'll see people coming out of different sectors, and I think the pandemic is part of that, isn't it? That people have had to rethink about their lives, but really opportunities to work with the land. So as somebody who's come from farming myself, it's a real, I really understand the sort of driver for that as well. Obviously, the college offers more than horticulture and land-based studies, and we're working across all our programmes with adults and young people to change their lives.
And like you say, horticulture and agriculture has been in a long time, but now changing it a little bit, adapting it, tweaking it, conservation, environmental.
Definitely, and being agile, I think, to what the local needs are as well. So we're really lucky on the island that we can have a college that can meet local needs and adapt to our environmental strategies and our farming needs and our gardening needs as well. So that's just one part of our curriculum, but that's a real sell for the college that we can do that and be as agile as we need to be and work with these employers and charities and trusts to really help the island move forward.
And like you say, here at Billown, the staff are actively getting involved. It's a beautiful site as well.
Yeah, it's fantastic, and we've both seen this morning, haven't we, the range of wildlife and rare species that are actually flourishing here as well. And it's really great to see the college as part of that, UCM as part of that, developing the environment and helping it flourish too.
And this project alone, we're planting a tree today that's going to be here many, many years to come. It's a great stepping stone.
Exactly, and we saw, didn't we, where the students were learning, it's not just about sticking a hole in the ground and putting the tree in. There's actually some science behind that, and they are learning and, as you say, earning at the same time, because many of them are moving into apprenticeships or moving into work or already working for different employers across the island, and really taking their skills forward, but also learning about nature and how the environment works over here alongside farming and construction, etc.
And that's it, like you say, construction, we never would have brought in tree planting with construction, but now it's so important.
It definitely is, and part of our land-based studies programme is really understanding to our ethical needs as well, isn't it, and about looking after the environment at the same time as making homes for people and making businesses work. These students are learning all about that. It's a much wider skill set than just the science of planting and landscaping.
And how can people get involved with this, Jazz? Because it is something, you say it's open for everyone.
Yeah. So if you visit the college website, you can see all about our different course offers. You can contact our guidance team, and they'll be able to provide you with more information. We also have our prospectuses, which you can download there. But obviously, we have a range of people available to talk at any time. If you want to come and experience the college. We also have a large number of school links programmes with students coming in at 14 and 15 across the island to experience a wide range of courses across all our different disciplines. So again, those students are getting that access to tasters of courses and actually getting vocational qualifications alongside their GCSE programme. So really exciting and actually quite unique to the island, the sort of breadth of that programme.
We're here now with Clive Collister from Billown Quarry. Clive, it's a wild day here at Billown and we are on top of the hill, but what a view we have of the south of the island.
Yes, it's spectacular, isn't it? It's a shame you picked such a windy day, but it wouldn't be March in the Isle of Man if it wasn't like this.
And today we see the lads from UCM and ladies planting trees on the top of the bund. Now this quarry is quite extensive.
Yeah, it's extended several times over the years, and obviously we've got planning permission now a year or so ago to do the latest extension. So we've now moved all the topsoil and created this new bund, and the guys from the college are coming to install all these wonderful trees and make a new habitat in this area.
And this adds on to the lovely old habitat now I see at the very, very bottom in the old disused quarry.
Yes, Rose Hill Quarry I think was quarried 300 odd years ago. It's now filled with water, and in 2005 it was licensed as an ASSI by DEFRA.
And that will have lots of lovely animals and mammals running about.
There's all sorts in there, and I think it's accredited for bee orchids, a very rare flower, very small, pretty flower that looks a bit like a bee. Only blooms every now and again. I think we had a few last year or the year before. So it takes careful management, and DEFRA come down regularly and help us with that.
And I see Andre, he sort of gave us a little tour earlier of the older site there, and he is so passionate about the programme going ahead.
He certainly is, and it's great to see that, and hopefully it rubs off on the students as well. And we have a very good symbiotic relationship with him as well. So
and that is so important, isn't it?
Absolutely. Companies nowadays, it's one thing using natural resources, but to be seen to do our bit for the community and the environment is very important now to companies like ours.
And that's it. That joined up thinking, and with Jez, the principal of a UCM, she is delighted to have companies like yourselves giving these children and students opportunities, and people that are changing sectors to come and try out land-based projects. But this opportunity here at Billown is quite something. Yes, yeah, it works well for all of us, as I said before. We get what we want out of it. The college gets to train the guys, and also we develop a nice new habitat, which will be really important in the area. Now, the Wildlife Trust, Lee, has a massive part to play in this at Billown Quarry. It's great to see Andre here and yourself putting these lovely trees in the ground.
It's great to be here. This is a project that the Wildlife Trust, really led by Andre, has been working away on for years. Very much part of our Action for Wildlife initiative that we're working with other partners on the island, and this site at Billown with the existing quarry and the ASSI and the naturefying of the works post-quarrying is wonderful. It's linking it all together.
And that's the thing, you don't really put, like you say, extensive quarrying with habitat and nature, do you really?
Well, it'd be wrong to say we don't need to quarry. We need stone. People need stone on the island. But I think what we've been really impressed with working with COLAS is that they genuinely want to leave the site as best as they can, and in fact enhance it in some ways for nature. So the opportunities for, as a calcareous grassland is fantastic. There are not many of those sites on the island, so this could be a really prime one.
It really is. And now the UCM students are working their way down this bund. I see there's lots of different types of trees and bushes they're putting in.
Yeah, it's a variant, so mainly broadleaf deciduous trees. There's one or two Scots pines I've seen planted out. Lots of hazel, so Corylus avellana, which is common hazel, and so they'll be actually managed as a coppice woodland, but very much Manx native trees that will provide a long, if you like, coppice woodland along the side of there.
But they're not long establishing using the Manx. They are used to this sort of climate. It's a horrible, wet, miserable day here, but they will establish quite quickly.
Yes, absolutely. I think it's interesting with trees. So a lot of my background was tree growing and then horticultural training, and so I've planted lots of trees and helped people plant lots of trees. The key as a tree is not so much the planting, it's the establishment bit. And actually when you plant, I could talk for hours about the difference between if you plant a tree in a pot or a tree that's bare root. But once that tree gets its roots established, then they will grow away quite quickly. But yeah, absolutely, Manx natives, the soil is good. We're putting the right trees in the right place. And I think that for the whole island is really important.
That's right. It's nice
right
to see.
Right tree, right place.
Yeah, exactly. And here, we're not taking up the farmland at Billown. It is actually in the bund surrounding the quarry.
Yeah, it's the bund is there, and we're naturefying the bund.
Yeah, this is it. And also I saw Andre, he was carrying a tray of what looked to be like little briars.
Yes.
Now, they look very, very prickly.
Well, they are prickly. They're the ones that we're not worrying about putting a tree guard around. So they're tough as boots and they'll survive.
But what would their purpose be within this?
Well, with any woodland, you want different layers of vegetation. So that would be the lower scrubby layer. So that would be the shrubby layer of the woodland. They provide habitat for inverts. They can provide habitat for birds in there, and then the trees grow above them.
I see. So the nesting birds, their eggs would be quite secure in amongst all of the thorns.
Yes, for some of them they would. When they're young, once those bushes get more established, also as the coppice to trees as well. Yeah, perfect.
So now going further into what Wildlife Trust is doing, it's working quite heavily with agriculture now. We're into the agri-environmental scheme a good few months. How are we finding that?
It's a good question. I remember we had this chat down at Castletown School. Agri-environment scheme. Well, when we took it on, we felt it was the best opportunity we would ever have as a wildlife trust for positively influencing lots of the island. Our nature reserves, I say this a lot, but they're 0.25% of the island's area, and agriculture officially is 88% of the island. So it was always our ambition to work on landscape scale with the landowners, with the farmers in a positive way. My own background's crop growing, so I hope that helps me have the conversations. David Bellamy, our Agri-Environment Officer, has done a fantastic job. So the scheme started on the 1st of April. We were awarded our contract as a delivery partner on the 1st of July. And then pretty much David has been visiting lots and lots of farms. He's now visited well over 100 of our farms, had conversations, and if you add up the total area of the farms he's visited, it's over 30% of the island that David's visited. Another Agri-Environment Officer, Caroline Perry's working 2 days a week on the projects as well. We've got an administrator, we're working very close with DEFA, with Andy Cooper, John Harrison and the team at DEFA. I think this year has far exceeded our own ambitions. So we were keen to be in the mix. We're hoping we're in it for the long haul,
yes,
and we're hoping that supporting Manx farmers, and it is about that. It's not about we don't want to farm, we just need to farm in a more nature-friendly way, get the funding, make sure the farmers access it. Small wins for nature over large areas of the island will be fantastic. So really positive conversations. David's a fantastic asset and he started that process, and we're hoping that going into year 2, 3, 4 that progression keeps going. So yeah, genuinely very enthused about year 1.
That is really, really good. And to have that positivity coming back, because I know it's a huge undertaking for many of the farming people around the island. It is worrying. There's a lot of form filling. There's a lot of maybe areas of interest that they've never known before. So explanations and education is key as well.
Yeah, I think I'm not going to say it's a perfect scheme. People know that we didn't design it. We tended to be the delivery agent, and that's not fudging it. We're doing what we do well, and we're glad to be around the table to hopefully influence it. You know, we have regular meetings with the Manx National Farmers Union. We've got an MOU with them, really great relationship with them. So we listen to them. We're talking about the scheme together. We empathise with the challenges of all the paperwork and that some farmers have lost the 12 quid an acre, and we know that. We are trying to do the absolute best for the island and the farmers with the if you like the goalposts in front of us, but not just saying that we can't evolve. So those key conversations with the MNFU, the key conversations with DEFA and other farmers that aren't MNFU members are really important to us. But it's not a perfect world. We are in it for the long haul. I know some farmers, you know, are disappointed that lost the 12 quid, or maybe not all have applied. We're hoping that the paperwork gets slicker, the application process. We're hoping that this year that you know, we've put in some recommendations that we're sense checking with the farmers about how the handbook might evolve, so for new schemes. So we see it very much as a progressional thing. No apologies for year one, because I think it's fantastic that the island's got an agri-environment scheme. That is definitely the way the world is going. I think we just have to get on with it in that way, but make the best of it. So yeah, very much working with farmers. Not a perfect world, but enthused about the progression.
There we go. That was Lee Morris from the Manx Wildlife Trust, Colas MD Clive Collister, and Jasmine Kelly, the principal at UCM.
And it's fabulous that the interest is in, as we'll be hearing more in the second part of the programme, from companies that have used it for many years and want to make something of it that's useful for everything.
That's right. Colas want to get the community involved. They want to help put nature back and look after the site where the old quarry used to be, and the nature and the wildlife that's now in abundance there, like they were saying, is really, really developing, and they're very proud of the areas that they've put back and watching the wildlife grow, but also the students being able to tick off their portfolio units by having the chance or an area to plant their trees, do the maintenance and the fencing, which is another unit in their portfolio, and also just get used to being in the outdoors and whether this is a career for them. And you can see the students were so passionate. They were absolutely made up to be outside.
And it's funny when you listen to the kids at school. My young fella's 10. You listen to him when he comes back from school. They are learning a lot about the way that things used to be, in a way. Because it had that transition where people, I don't think, were taught much about the countryside or, you know, rural or environmental studies. And it seems to be something that's been brought back into the schools.
I think it had to come back into it, Simon. It really did. There was such a disconnect between how food is produced, how the landscape works, how our countryside looks like it does. And to have a horticultural based study at UCM, it's an opportunity for people to get into it further, to be landscape gardeners, to work outside, you know, whether you want to be a greenkeeper or do other things that are outdoor orientated. There is practical and theory that can be done through the college, and if you just decide you want a different way or a different path in life, you can change up and go back there as a mature student.
You're listening to Countryside here on Manx Radio with Kirree Kermode and myself, Simon Clark. Well, we heard Kirree talking to some of the people from the college, and of course Clive Collister from Colas, who've got the quarry down at Billown. Well, Island Aggregates, of course, run a quarry up the Point of Ayre, and part of that, which has been used, its life is gone, has been turned into a nature reserve. And who better to show me around than the Managing Director of Manx Birdlife, Neil Morris, and what a beautiful day it was at the point.
We're very lucky, aren't we? It's a beautiful, clear sky. You can see all the way across to Scotland and south to the Manx Hills. And we're looking out over the lagoon at the Point of Ayre, and it's absolutely like a mill pond.
You've been out and about today, work and pleasure, I imagine?
Well, yes, ostensibly work, but it feels like pleasure. We've taken the Manx Horticulture Society members round for a tour this morning. Started at 9 o'clock. It was a bit nippy, but we had sunshine in the air even then, which over the next 3 hours warmed us up. And we had a good walk over what is this first 105 acres of nature reserve, the former quarry, owned by Island Aggregates. And it was just a wonderful morning in the sunshine, as calm as anything, watching the birds.
How does the likes of tweeters and what have you, ornithologists, part-time ones or just ones who have an interest in birds, who go around the Isle of Man, what was the reaction when they came here today? Maybe some for the first time?
Well, I think we have a lot of people who come back here every year. Sometimes people make 3 or 4 visits a year because it's a fabulous place. It is like no other place on the island because we've got this big expanse of open water. It's about a 50-acre lagoon of water, and it's in an environment up here at the Point of Ayre where you've got a shingle and sand gravel substrate. And so that combination of the substrate and the water, this large area of open water, is unique within the island. So people will want to come back here, as I say, but also for the people amongst us this morning who were here for the first time, I think it always takes people by surprise. It's just vast, it's huge, and it's beautiful.
Now, we're pretty close to the sea at the Point of Ayre here, and people who won't know it might be thinking, just a place for gulls, is it?
I know gulls have a bad name, but we have 5 species of gull that nest on the island. This is the only place where all 5 actually nest. And the big value of an open water area like this is, firstly, it's fresh water, and it's been water that's filtered through the hills and underground. So it's lost all that brown tea stain, which a lot of the upland hill water has. If you think of Selby Reservoir, it's very much a brown tea water reservoir. And that means that the ecology, because the water quality is different here, the ecology in the water is different. And we're starting to get a food chain developing in the water with plants, invertebrates. We know we've got fish in here now. And then all of that can support the bird community that's starting to evolve.
Now, you mentioned the fish side of it, obviously the bird side from your own point of view, but it seems to be traces of lots of other wildlife in the area because it's so undisturbed.
Well, absolutely. Being based here at the Point of Ayre, it's surrounded by a wonderful ecosystem, the whole of the Ayre's north coast. And specifically within the area we've got here for the nature reserve at the moment, it's not just the birds, we've got insects. During the spring and summer we have a lot of butterflies and moths. I think the dragonfly community here is unrivaled on the island. And of course you've then got the plants as well. And we've got orchids starting to show themselves, and we're quite hopeful that, providing the weather doesn't turn too bad before the spring really starts, that we're going to have a really good orchid year up here. And we would certainly invite people to come up over the periods late May, June, early July. Come and join us and come and experience it for yourself.
You mentioned the dragonflies. It's not something people think a lot of on the island, but is it unique for them?
Well, we talk a lot about the birds, being Manx Birdlife, and of course people recognise that birds migrate, and there's a lot of really exciting information being learnt now with new technologies about where birds migrate to, how they migrate, the long journeys they undertake. But just as birds migrate, insects migrate as well, and we have the northernmost freshwater on the Isle of Man here at the Point of Ayre Reserve. And we see a lot of dragonflies. We've had European continental dragonflies appearing here at the Point of Ayre. And they're pushing up from the South Mediterranean, perhaps even from Africa, on warm winds. And who knows where they go after they leave the northern point of the island. And then you've got butterflies as well. We've created some butterfly corridors where, whatever the wind and the weather, there's always a sheltered spot for them. And so we're seeing red admirals and painted ladies, and these are migratory animals just in the same way that birds are.
It's amazing to hear that when you just think of birds or maybe dolphins and the sharks, basking sharks and things migrating, but to hear all of them coming, it's just amazing facts.
Well, I mustn't forget the bats as well. With the help of the Manx Bat Group, we now know that we've got at least 7 of the 8 species of Manx bat feeding here over the reserve, and bats migrate as well, so perhaps longer term studies might just throw up a few surprises.
Now, of course, it's work in progress for you, and it's not open to the public yet, Neil.
No, this is a long-term project. We're on the first phase, so we're starting to restore the first part of the quarry, which has been excavated and finished. And that's about 105 acres. And over time, perhaps 20, 30 years or more, another 3 areas will come on stream for the nature reserve. So we're very early doors. What we're trying to do is get this first area right, get the wildlife thriving, make the wildlife secure, and then our second job is to make it secure for people. Now we have a plan at the moment, Plan A should we call it, to open the site in April 2024 to the public so that we can have open visiting. But you can imagine if you look around the site now, we've got a lot of open water, we've got a lot of industrial hazards lying around, the ground's pretty unfirm as well. So there's a bit of work to do to make it safe for visiting, and that between getting the wildlife right and between getting the visiting side right, that's our focus for the next couple of years.
How unique will this be for the world of ornithology?
Well, in the Isle of Man, it'll be unique, definitively unique. There'll be species here that you won't be able to see anywhere else, and there'll be assemblages of animals, plants that you can see in combination here that again will be unique. So I come back to the habitat, and this big open lagoon is unique, and the quality of water in the lagoon is unique within the context of the island. And that starts to build a very different ecosystem to the sorts of communities of animals and plants that have developed elsewhere on the island. We describe this as a wetland reserve, and I guess if you think about other wetland areas, including the Kirree, you can imagine that the Kirree sitting in a very peat-based area has a very different quality to it. We're sitting in a shingle area, and as I say, the water has been percolated through the ground. This is water table water we're looking at, plus we get rainfall, and it has a very different quality to it. And so the reserve will be unique within the island. There'll be places similar to this across overseas, but certainly the scale and the scope of what we have here and the diversity of wildlife will be unique within an Isle of Man context.
The birds themselves, obviously, it's been strange weather. We've had snow, we've had ice, gales and storms. We're at the point today, and it's a beautiful day, the sun is shining. Is this a difficult time for bird life?
It's a period of transition. Just coming back to your point about the weather, strangely enough, as ornithologists, we see the weather in a different way. We tend to measure the weather by the birds we see, and we think it's been a very quiet year for the birds. We haven't had disruptive weather that has moved different groups of birds to us or from the island. We've not had any big freezes on the continent, big large numbers of duck onto the water here. So we think it's been quite a sort of tame winter. But we're now starting to get towards spring. There are birds across the reserves that are starting to get very territorial. They're starting to show breeding courtship. And with the nest box and platforms we have out in front of us, we're starting to see birds battling, if you like, for territory, and birds settling on the nest boxes and saying, this is mine for the coming year. And maybe in about 4 weeks' time, hopefully they'll start laying eggs.
During my younger career working for Island Aggregates, obviously work in the industry, I've been many a time looking at terns a couple of feet above your head.
Well, terns are on our agenda. The terns are out on the Point of Ayre beaches, and we hope they can survive there. But they are very vulnerable to disturbance and other activities, and also storm events. And so there are years when the terns don't do quite so well on the beach. Now, if we can provide through shingle islands and through dedicated tern rafts out on the lagoons here, somewhere else that the terns can expand into, then that will help to make the populations more secure. So the more terns, the better. And we have to remember that these are birds that undertake some of the biggest migrations of any animal in the world.
Really?
Yeah. The Arctic terns out on the Point of Ayre, they can live for 30 years. They travel something like 50,000 miles in a year, migrating from Antarctica to here and then back again. And in the lifetime of an adult Arctic tern, they can be flying about 1.5 million miles, And that's 3 journeys to the moon and back again. And they're coming here each summer to spend that summer nesting here. So I think the least we can do is provide them with somewhere safe and secure to nest when they get here.
But obviously, as we mentioned before, Neil, and it's not open to the public yet, but if anyone's interested in maybe joining one of your groups that come down maybe to do a bit of work or just for a look at it, is that a possibility?
Absolutely. If you check our website, manxbirdlife.im, you'll see there's an events page. And we post on that the dates where we're hosting groups, so you can sign up to join one of those groups, and we'll give you a guided tour of the reserve. We'll take you around the lagoon. We'll take you to some of the high spots where you can get some of these wonderful vistas. So check the Manx Birdlife webpage, manxbirdlife.im, and we'd very much look forward to seeing you.
Neil Morris from Manx Birdlife showing me how the area is coming along there, the nature reserve, and showing the ornithologists around the morning. And it was great that some of them had been there for the first time and taking it in awe. And Neil telling us about how much traffic comes in and out of it from birds from all parts of the world, dragonflies, yeah. And it really is great. And just to emphasise, it isn't open to the public yet. So you need to contact the Manx Birdlife, as Neil said, on one of those platforms. But it was the perfect day for being down there, Kirree.
It is absolutely beautiful on this island on such a sunny day, and this weekend was fantastic for everybody. But like you say, to have these areas protected while the birds nest, and to have the variety that we do have come to the Isle of Man, we're so lucky. It's such a safe place here, and just to have them on our doorstep as well. Oh, how lucky we are.
It is. All right, that's it for this week's Countryside. Don't forget the podcast on Manx Radio's website or the Listen Again feature, and we'll be back next Tuesday with more. So from me, Simon Clark.
And me, Kirree Kermode.
See you next week. Ta-da.
Bye-bye.